I wanted, first of all, to thank all of the people who have come up to me in the past couple of days and just shared very, very kind words or asked really wonderful questions. We're all students, aren't we? You'll always be a student your whole life. Curiosity is built into us. So it's great when you have a question and then are open to hearing something new. And the something new is going to come from inside of you. You're going to hear something new that helps you have a better understanding in life. And when you have a better understanding, what was difficult gets harder. You know, Rabbi Harris was talking about how I'm sort of slow and calm, and I wasn't always that way. I literally used to run everywhere I went. I was always very anxious. It was hard for me to sit down. My kids called me Space Cadet because I was so preoccupied thinking about things that I wasn't always very present. I'm very, very grateful that I've learned the things that we've been talking about in the past couple of days. I also feel extremely blessed right now in my life. When my son was little, people called him the baby whisperer. He was so good with babies. He couldn't walk past a baby without going right over to it and just wanting to hold it or play with it. And as he got older, any parent who saw my son with their baby or their kids wanted to hire him full time to be their nanny. And he waited a long time to be able to find the opportune time to have his own child. Now, my son has his own son. He's 3 months old. It's a blessing. I tell you, it's a blessing. I have other grandchildren, but to see my son loving his son is unbelievable. And in the past 3 months, I've had the real opportunity. I have probably, in the past 3 months, held that baby in my arms for 3 weeks. He lives 4 hours away, but I keep finding excuses. And hold that little baby in my arms. And I think babies are wonderful, wonderful teachers. Because when I looked, gazing into that baby's eyes, you know what I saw? Just presence. Just pure presence. Free of all of the noise of our personal mind. That baby, I loved imagining and experiencing as best I could what it would be like, or what it is like, in those moments when we fall out of our personal thinking into the now and are like that baby. You know what that means? When I look at that baby, there are no judgments. He has no judgments. He has no shoulds. He has no expectations. He's not worrying. He's not depressed. And he still has all kinds of feelings that come and go. And he's not going, why am I having this feeling? What's wrong with me that I feel this way? What should I do about it? Oh my gosh, here we go. Oh, why do you have to treat me this way? In newborn consciousness, or what I like to call pure consciousness, we're seeing life through the eyes of a newborn. Or we're seeing life through the eyes of pure consciousness, which is not personal. It's not our consciousness. It's God looking out at the world through our eyes. No judgment, no separation, just love. It's to see the eyes, see the world through those eyes, and you see perfection, because you have no judgments. You know what love is? It's the absence of judgment. Pure perception. Seeing, Sid Banks would call it seeing life as it is in truth, rather than filtered through all kinds of concepts and ideas that distort truth. It's like looking through a pure, thin glass window where there's no distortion. And when our heads start filling up with a lot of personal thinking, all of a sudden the glass gets a little thicker. And as you go into lower states, the glass gets darker. And you're looking at the world through a dark lens, and you think you're seeing the world as it is. You're not. You're seeing the world as it isn't. The beautiful thing is we can all see the world as it is. Not all the time, but most of the time when I look out at people, I see newborn consciousness looking back at me. Pure, this core, this heart of pure innocence, pure love, pure understanding that gets covered over by sunglasses. Right? And people get tricked by the illusion of thought and think the way they see the world through sunglasses is the way the world actually is. Oh, it's so dark, and I have so many problems, and I'm struggling, and it's an issue, and I'm having difficulty. And any person, when that thinking falls away, they become like a newborn again. Eyes wide open, present, awake, free to have any thought, any feeling, any experience. It comes and goes. I watch my little grandson's face. Every few seconds, he has a different emotion. He's not always in the same feeling. But you know what? He doesn't have any thinking about what he's experiencing. Right? So at any particular moment, we're experiencing life, whatever you're feeling, even if you're really upset, and you're either in your conceptual mind or you're not. And when you're not, you have no trouble. You're like a baby going, wah! And then you get over it. You go into your conceptual mind, and all of a sudden, you start spinning out all kinds of experience. Innocently. Every one of you, at some point during the day, if I followed you around, I could point out those moments when you're in newborn consciousness. Because you're being kind, you're being warm, you're being open, you're being responsive, or you're having a feeling and you're not judging it. You're not in your head about it. It's very ordinary. It's the most ordinary thing in the world. One time Sid Banks said, if you're listening, we used to have cassette tapes for Sid's talks in the early days. He said, if you're listening to one of my tapes in the car, and as you're listening, you fall out of your thinking into this space that's open and a nice feeling, take the tape out, roll the window down, throw the tape out. Because you found what you're looking for, and it was never on the tape. It was inside you. Right? I love Linda Pettit's talk this morning. I was very touched by her talk. This space inside of us filled with love and understanding, waiting to break through, like the sun patiently waits to break through until the clouds part. So here's the question. How do we end up feeling so much stress and upset and tension and we get lost? So I wanted to read to you, if you would bear with me, I'd like to read to you something that I just came across again earlier. Wouldn't you know how this works? I just happened to come across this quote. Sis is giving a talk, and he said, somebody said to me, how do we lose this? How do we lose this? Why is it that we're born with such presence and openness and love and innocence? How do we lose this? All of a sudden, I'm logged on to Hilton Honors. It's asking me to log in. Oh my gosh. Hold on one second. Yeah.
No, here, you can go back to...
If I put my last name in, then I'll be done.
Wait for it.
My one finger pecking. Okay. Sorry for the advertisement here. Join Hilton Honors. No, thank you. Help, get out, escape. I need my grandson. My other grandson. I have a 12-year-old grandson. Let me see if I can get back to it. Here it is. Thank you for your patience. Someone said to me, how do we lose this? And he says, when a baby is in its mother's womb, the good Lord gives it something called the soul. And soul is pure consciousness. Pure consciousness. Now, when that baby comes out into this world, it starts using the three principles to recognize existence and go through existence. The second it does, that's in its intellect or your ego. And when it does that, you lose that wisdom. You leave it behind. You lose it. So the idea is to go back and get it. You know, go back from whence you came. And the only way you can do that is look within, because there lies the answer. Now, a lot of people are searching for a silent mind. Everyone is really searching for a silent mind. Everybody is looking. One time Sid Banks said, every human being on this planet is looking for pure consciousness, and they don't know it. They don't know that that's where all the answers lie. They don't know that that's where they'll find innocence, love, perspective, understanding, insight, inspiration, new thinking, new ideas, creativity, upliftment, common sense. What people are searching for is a silent mind, a state of no thought. Now, I said to somebody once, what you're looking for is a state of no thought. Now, translate no thought is newborn consciousness. That's what you're looking for. Just presence, free of concept. Just being in the moment, being in the now. He said to them, this person said to Sid, well, with no thought, how can we think? As if when our heads are clear and we're in the present moment, we can't think. He said, how do we think? And I said, well, it's not like that. What you do is get a silent mind, and then you go inside and have a realization of the wisdom that lies within. Sid said, if you take one little step beyond your precious little thought system, one little step beyond your personal thought system, and touch that space of purity, you touch your soul, and it must manifest something beautiful in your life. When I read that the first time, I just sat there and cried. Most beautiful thing. Now I understand that that's true of every single one of us. The instant people fall beyond their thought system and come back into this innocence, this presence, when they touch that space, they will always begin to feel better and see life with more understanding and feel more connected to people and to life. And paradoxically, I was talking with someone at lunch today, and I said, isn't it a funny joke that God decided to play a little trick on us and said, I think I'll hide a person's well-being in the only place they'll never look, right inside of them, just underneath their thought system. And people are thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking, trying to figure out the principles, trying to figure out life, trying to figure out, always thinking, thinking, thinking. You can't think your way into the silence where wisdom will meet you, full embrace, no exceptions. That's why some people will say God is love. When you fall into the space, your soul, God will meet you there and lift your spirits and guide you beautifully through life. Here's a story. It's another 7-year-old story, because a lot of the insights I've gained have come from listening to 7-year-olds when they have wisdom coming through them. Okay? Some of you may have heard this story, and I was saying, well, I've told this story before, maybe I won't tell it, but I'm trusting what keeps coming back to me, and it kept coming back. This would be a great story to tell again. So here we go. A mother comes to see me, and she has a young son, and she's very worried about her young son. And she says to me, Dicken, my son is just like, he's not like a kid. I said, well, what do you mean? And he says, well, if there's a gathering of people and there's adults in one room and kids in the other room, he'd rather be in the room with the adults. And he's like a little adult. And he's just like, he talks with adults all the time, and he just loves doing that. She says, can you test him to tell me if he's normal? I said, I don't do testing. I said, I'll be glad to meet with your son, and I'll give you my professional opinion about how healthy I think he is. She said, oh, great. So I'm sitting in my office, and the door opens up, and this little 7-year-old boy walks into the office, and he walks straight across the room right in front of me. And he is unbelievably present. He walks right in, he's looking right at me, and he goes, oh, hi, you must be Dicken. I said, yes, I am. He goes, well, it's really nice to meet you. How are you doing? And he really meant, you know how people say, how you doing? No, he meant, how are you doing? And I took him seriously, and I sat back, and I said, well, let me see, how am I doing? And I told him. And then he started asking me questions. I'm thinking, who are you? Sid, is that you? Are you playing a joke on me? You know, who are you? And he asked me questions, and so I tell him, and then I say, well, and how are you doing? And he takes it seriously, and he gets reflective and quiet, and he tells me how he's doing. Isn't that interesting? And then he says, Dicken, so what do you do? 7 years old. He says, so Dicken, what do you do? And I said, well, I talk with people and remind them of the happiness they have inside. What do you tell people? I'm going, I can't wait to share with him the principles. And I want to know what he thinks. So I say, well, I don't know what I can't remember exactly what I said, but I'm sure I said something about, boy, we're blessed with this gift of thought. We're always living in the world of thought. There's some place inside of us that's free and clear, right? Our pure consciousness, our soul, right? When our minds get quiet, we just know how to deal with things. And he goes, oh, Dicken, I know what you mean. I say, please tell me. And he goes, well, for example, Dicken, if I don't know what to do with myself, sometimes I go to my bed and I lie down and it's like I'm taking a nap. It's like I'm going to sleep, but I don't go to sleep. Do you know what I mean? I get goosebumps all over my body. I fall to my knees, bow down. No. Oh, great wise one. I'm going, that is one of the most simplest, most beautiful summations of what I've learned. You can wake up to the thinking you're doing, fall out of it, fall back into this quiet space, like you're going to sleep, but you don't go to sleep. You just enter the quiet space you're in just before you fall asleep. So I said to him, can you say anything more about that? I wanted him to keep talking. I'm the student now, right? And he goes, well, Dicken, it's like I'm falling asleep, but I don't fall asleep. And at a certain point, I always feel better. And as soon as I feel better, then I know just what to do. Who had the insight? You know, in the cartoons where the light bulb goes off, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I thanked him for the session, paid him dearly. I went to his mother and I said, I would stake my professional opinion on your kid will be fine. Your kid will be fine. He's blessed with wisdom. He'll be fine. I'll be glad to talk to you about your worry if you'd like. And they switched places and she became my client. And in 3 sessions, she was no longer a worrier, right? Isn't that interesting? Sid Banks had 2 profound insights. The first one is it's all thought. We live in the world of thought. The second insight he had was more than an insight. It was what some people call an enlightenment experience, where he went into a blaze of light, disappeared, and realized the nature of God. And he came back with so much humility and love, and for 3 days and nights, he was so filled with love and compassion and understanding that he didn't sleep for 3 days and 3 nights. And he went back to work on Monday as a welder. And now these principles are being taught all over the world because God broke through into his ordinary human consciousness and gave him a gift. But he came out of that experience trusting deeply that every single human being on this planet has the same capacity to fall out of our conceptual mind into this purity. And if you touch that space, you will be given gifts beyond your wildest imagination. Beautiful gifts, presence, warmth, kindness, listening. It's this wisdom that will cure you of your psychological ills. It's this wisdom that will help you begin to have a quieter and quieter mind. It's this wisdom breaking through you over and over and over again that will be of help to you. It's really simple. Okay, so the name of this talk is How Stress Can Be a Call to Wisdom. We all When we're first born, we're born free of the constraints and limitations and judgments of our conceptual mind. But we need to develop a conceptual mind. It's a beautiful thing. The intellect is a computer that because we're able to develop a computer, we're able to think in ideas and beliefs, and that is an absolutely glorious gift. Right? But we were never meant to live full-time in our computer. And gradually we get lost. Because gradually we get caught more and more, we get more and more caught up in the world of ideas and beliefs. And we lose sight of this space where we see the perfection in life, where we see the life free of judgment, where we see a life free of separation, where we feel connected to people and to life and to others in a positive way. We innocently get lost until we begin to realize that the stress and upset we're feeling is just an indication in the moment that we're trying to use our intellect for something it was never intended to be used for. You cannot use the intellect to get love and understanding. You can't be thinking about things and feel happy at the same time. You can't be thinking about things and feel loving at the same time. In those moments when we fall out of our conceptual mind is when we're ripe for insight. There is nothing wrong with using our intellect. Use it all you want. Enjoy it. It's fun to think of things. It's fun to use ideas. It's fun to learn new things and to learn ideas. It's wonderful that we have a way of analyzing and thinking about things. When you begin to feel tension or stress or upset, that's the time to throw yourself wide open again so that wisdom can guide you. Remember the little boy, in his wisdom, realized, if I'm confused, upset, anxious, don't know what to do, I take my hands off the hot stove. I let go of everything. I surrender in that moment to the something greater that knows better than we do. And in that falling awake, just like falling in love, when you fall in love, you fall out of your conceptual mind so that you can feel love and compassion for other people. And then we get back in our intellect and it gets complicated and difficult and we get stressed. And then we try to think our way out of that problem. You can't think your way to wisdom. You surrender to wisdom. And it comes to your aid. It comes to you. It fills you up with love and understanding and brings that to you so that you can then extend it into the world. I'm talking to a young man, Yitzi, in Jerusalem. And he had a lot of stress in his life. And he said, Dicken, I hate feeling stress. You see, I've never met a baby who says, I hate feeling stress. They just feel stress. Then they get over it. If you hate, you have thoughts that create the feeling of hate. Now you're feeling stress and hate. If you're struggling, now you're feeling stress and struggle. You're adding another layer on top of it. You're keeping it alive. Right? We're free thinkers, and whatever you think is going to be brought to life so you can experience it. Yitzi said, I'm trying everything I can to get rid of this thought, this stress. I know it's thought, Dicken, and I'm drop it. Yitzi, drop it. It's just thought creating your stress. Baby, I've never heard a baby go, drop it. It's all innocent. It's all innocent. So I say, and it's the first time I had ever said this to a client in my whole life, I say, Yitzi, stress is a call to prayer. Stress is a call to prayer. And he got it. He had an insight. Stress was never a problem. Pretty soon he's going, Dicken, thank God I feel stress. It reminds me I'm not in this alone. And that if I throw myself open, God will respond. Yitzi and I are good friends. He's so grateful for what he's learned. It's so simple. Stress is a call to prayer. Stress is a call to let go of everything you're thinking, because you can't think your way to wisdom. You can only open your way so that wisdom can speak through you, not in words, but in knowing. You just then, when you feel better, you just know what to do. I can't explain it. Okay, so I'm with my wife. I'm in a low state, she's in a low state. When she's in a low state and she opens her mouth, it comes out critical. When I'm in a low state, I worry. Right? That's the habits we've learned. It's the kind of thinking we do. So sometimes I'm in a low state and I'm worrying and I'm going, how am I going to deal with her now? And oh boy, why does she have to be this way? Koizi, why do you have to be so critical? That used to be the discussion we had. All right? You can imagine how those discussions went. Why do you have to be so critical? Well, who's being critical now? You know, the only time people argue, you have two people in a low mood thinking it's a good idea to talk about things. Now what happens? Remember, I've learned my lesson from the little 7-year-old boy. If I don't feel close to my wife, I know it has nothing to do with my relationship and it has nothing to do with my wife. It has to do with my state of mind. So it's like I'm going to sleep, but I don't. You know, if it's like a snow globe. If you're thinking about your problem, you keep shaking the snow globe and it never gets clear. You set it down. That's what surrender is. You just rest in the now. You rest in pure consciousness. You become like a baby again. You just fall wide open. When you fall wide open, you still have thoughts going through your head, but you're not paying attention to a single one. You all experience this every day and don't know that you are touching, getting close to your soul. That's going in the right direction. You're just resting in the now. And when you rest in the now, what's in the snow globe will settle out. I've never seen it not happen. The thinking you have will settle out. And when it does, you'll have more clarity. You'll have a quieter mind. Because the quiet is always there underneath the noise of your babbling little thought system. Can some of you feel it now? It's ordinary. It's just a quiet. It's just presence. Just ordinary. It's what you were born with. It's your birthright. It's your nature. It's always there. Just gets covered up. And in that quiet, you begin to feel more connected to life again. You begin to feel closer to people again. I was recently in the hospital and I spent time in more pain than I have ever experienced in my life. And I noticed, even when I was in pain, I was either present or I was in my thinking. And when I was in my pain and in my thinking, I was thinking things like, I can't stand this anymore. So now I have the experience of not being able to stand something. I hate this. Now I have the experience of hate. I'm being tortured. They spent 2 hours trying to get an IV into my arm, and they had 4 nurses. Each one would take half an hour poking and say, well, I'm sorry, I can't get it, and they'd send in the next nurse. What I discovered is when I realized by my feelings of hatred and torture and upset that I was in my thinking, and I fell back into the now. I'm in pain, but now it's pain. There's my wife's face. There's the clock. There's the nurse tenderly holding my arm, doing her best. And without even trying, I was able to be kind to the nurse. See, kindness is always right there. As soon as our minds are really present, kindness starts to come through, even if you're in a low mood. I guarantee, even if you're in a low mood, it can come through. Wisdom knows no bounds. Wisdom knows no bounds. It's unlimited potential. It's unlimited power. It's unlimited knowing. I used to think, I have to know what to do to be a good parent. You don't. You have to have enough humility that you can fall open, let go and let God. And then your own common sense comes to the fore. Oh, I guess I can do this, I can do that. Then parenting became very enjoyable. Very, very enjoyable. When I didn't feel good, it just let me know I was in my intellect trying to use it in a way that it wasn't meant to be used. If I gave you a shovel and you turned it upside down, tried to dig with the handle, you're not using the tool wisely. God gave us an intellect. It's a computer. You can use it wisely or unwisely. My grandson has used my computer unwisely. One time, he disappeared into my office. A minute and a half later, he comes out. Later, when they went home, I go into my office, I open my computer, and there's nothing there. It's all just, there are no icons. There is nothing. I call up a computer guy and I say, I can't figure out how to get my computer back. And he goes, oh no. Well, you don't want a computer expert telling you, oh no, right? So I call another computer expert and he says, I don't believe it. He was only in there a couple of minutes. And I said, yeah. He said, I think I know what might have happened. He said, but I'll have to come and take a look at your computer, and it took him 2 hours. And he figured out my grandson, who was really young, didn't know what he was doing, just typing on the keyboards, created a new identity and put my old computer into a new identity. So he had to find it again, bring it back. He said the chances of that happening are like a gazillion to 1, right? Okay, now listen. There are times all of us, because we don't understand how our minds work, innocently, we press a button, things disappear or things appear, and we have no idea where they went or how to get them back. We feel good at one moment, and then it disappears, and where to go, and how do I get it back, and oh my gosh. And we panic. When you understand the nature of your mind, when you feel lost, when you feel hurt, when you feel depressed, when you feel upset, if you know that that's just a thought-created state, and it calls you to prayer, calls you to openness, calls you back to wisdom. You can only receive wisdom when you're totally open and receptive, when there is no ego, which is personal thinking. when you approach God with great humility and openness and receptivity, you will be given to freely. I can guarantee you that. I have seen no exceptions to this. No exceptions. And I've worked with people who have spent their lives in mental hospitals. I've worked with prisoners in prison who have done heinous things. And when they discover that they can access an intelligence far greater than anything they've ever known, and that they can discover feelings of love and compassion and connection. You know what the wise have always said? It's very, very simple. You can get beyond the limitations of your conceptual mind. You can fall open into this space of pure consciousness. You will begin to receive God's love and wisdom that will lift your spirits and bring you the thinking you need to deal with anything going on in your life. And when you fill up with nice feeling, this is another key, this is another thing that's very important. When you have a nice feeling, even if it's only, I worked with one woman, she's depressed 95% of the time, 5 minutes a day, her head is clear, she's in a good feeling, give it away. Because the supply of love is unlimited. It can never run out. It's God's love coming through you. It can never, ever run out. Give it away. For a long time, when I first learned this, you know what helped me? I'm always thinking and I'm always going up and down. And sometimes my head is clear and I feel good, and sometimes I feel horrible. No problem if I'm aware of that. When I'm up here, I know wisdom is breaking through. That's when I did most of my parenting. That's when I talked to my wife about important things. That's when I just went and was present to people and listened, right? Just was kind. And when I lost it, kept my mouth shut. Just waited, set the jar down, took my hands off my thinking as best I could and just waited patiently. Nothing wrong with having a low mood. It's all weather. We're going to have sun, we're going to have rain, we're going to have snow. It's all good. It's all part of nature. It's all part of our nature. So when I have thought storms, which I do, and get stressed or upset, if I know it's just a thought storm, I'm safe. If I know the thought storm is God's alarm clock trying to wake me back up out of my personal thinking, out of my ego. Thank God that we feel stress and anger and hurt and upset. It reminds us of our connection to it, our own divinity. It reminds us of our connection to something greater. So keep it simple. Keep it simple. Go and enjoy yourself. Enjoy life. Bring love and understanding into the world. And when you lose that feeling, if you know it has to do with thought, and you take your hands off and you throw yourself back open, and just be patient. At some point, like the little boy said, Dicken, at some point, I always feel better. You can't be resting in the now, wide open to divine life, and not at some point feel better. I don't care who you are. I don't care how long you've been struggling or upset. You just not know. You're in the world of not knowing. You've gone from the known to the not knowing, personal thinking, not knowing. Who would think that when you don't know is when you start to feel better and then you know? Keep it simple. When you have an opportunity and love and understanding, when the sun breaks through your clouds, bring that into the world. It's the only way I've seen a relationship improves, if one person begins to bring more love and understanding into the relationship. It's how an individual gets healthy. It's how a couple gets healthy. It's how a family gets healthy as one person at a time falls open to divine wisdom. And wisdom always brings us, like the sun, warmth and nourishment, feelings of connection, and thinking that's helpful. Warmth and nourishment. Bring that warmth and nourishment into your world. Give it away for free. No expectations. Nothing in return. It's a beautiful way to live your life. It's an absolutely beautiful way to live your life. Say, what's your job? My job is to fall out of my ego, know nothing, wait patiently until I fill up with a nice feeling. Even the littlest teeny nice feeling can be given away. A little smile, a little kindness, a little bit of love, a little bit of understanding, and have that be your business. And you'll be bringing more love and understanding into the world. The world is a spiritual place. The way the world is going to change is not waiting for the rest of the world to get its act together. It's for each of us, one at a time, accessing God's divine wisdom and bringing more love and understanding into the world. And that will help the world change. Listen, it's universal thought, universal consciousness, universal mind. It's like an ecosystem. We're all connected through divinity. We're all one and connected through divinity. When one part of an ecosystem gets healthier, the whole system gets healthier. Isn't that encouraging? Your little act of kindness, your little warmth is helping to raise the overall level of love and understanding in the world. And you can do that while you're raising kids, while you're working, while you're doing whatever you're doing. You can have it be your business to let your feelings remind you when it's time to disengage from your intellect. Fall open, fill up, give it away. Blessings.